In a brutal sport defined by the violent antics of professional trash talkers, Alex Pereira's apparent lack of emotions truly stands out.
He is a terrifying guy, almost like soulless.
The Brazilian fighter maintains an aura of eerie calm at all times.
He's just unflappable.
The other thing that stands out about Pereira is his vicious left hook, the punch he used to uncrone Israel Adesanya at UFC 281. Truth be told, Pereira is the most unexpected champion on the roster. For the longest time, he was on track to die young and broke. However, they say that sports saves lives, and Pereira is living proof of this. Born in 1987 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Alex had a really rough childhood in a favela in São Bernardo do Campo. Growing up in a poverty-stricken household, he dropped out of school at the age of 12 to begin working in a tire shop. Peer pressured by his older colleagues, he started drinking and eventually became an alcoholic. His addiction got so out of control that by the time he was 16, he found himself drinking a bottle of rum at work every day, along with a few beers mixed in there as well. His future was bleak. With no education, he bounced from a dead-end job to another. Soon enough, he turned 21 and realized he was wasting his life. As a first step to turn things around and make healthier choices, he walked into a gym. But before we dive too deep into his story, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe. I make documentaries on the life and career of the most interesting MMA fighters current and past. Clicking the subscribe button will help us stay in touch, and you won't miss my future videos. Pereira started to turn his life around when he began training in kickboxing. As it turns out, he was actually quite good at fighting. So good, he eventually became one of his gym's most promising fighters, and fight offers started to pour in. This brought him a much-needed financial stability, but also a connection to his roots, as Pereira comes from indigenous heritage, specifically from the Pavexo tribe, and most of the fighters he trained with did as well. His nickname, Poatan, roughly translates to stone hand in his native Tupi language.
Coloquei essa pedra aqui, ó.
Ah, não tinha visto aí.
Aí uns me chamam de monte de pedra, entendeu?
His fighting career started gaining traction in March 2014, when he won the Glory Middleweight Contender Tournament and defeated Dustin Jacoby with a brutal left hook. Look at that. Dustin somehow defied all laws of physics on his way down. Almost looks like he slipped on a banana skin.
It's the only time I've ever been knocked out. You know, the guy knocks everybody out with the left hook, and he's just a dangerous man.
On top of that, Dustin was already a veteran of the sport, while Pereira was a nobody. But let's jump straight to 2016, when Pereira squared off against Israel Adesanya in a 3-round kickboxing bout at the Glory of Heroes event that took place in Shanghai, China. Before he transitioned to MMA full-time, Izzy was an accomplished kickboxer.
My name is Israel Adesanya, and I am fighting out of Auckland, New Zealand by way of Nigeria.
Amassing a record of 75 wins and 5 losses over the course of his pro career. He competed in China as well as New Zealand, capturing titles and knockouts, en route to competing in Glory Kickboxing, the world's premier kickboxing promotion. On the other hand, with ups and downs along the way, Pereira had only 13 professional kickboxing fights to his name. He was also still struggling with addiction, going back and forth from sobriety and binge drinking. The last stylebender, who at that time had won 18 straight matches, was the obvious favorite. And yet, this ended up being an intense showdown, as both fighters displayed their impressive striking skills throughout the 3 rounds. By the end of it, although Pereira looked more fatigued than Adesanya, he landed the most powerful strikes, and the judges scored the fight in his favor with a unanimous decision. But this win didn't skyrocket Pereira's name to stardom. He went 2-1 in his next 3 fights. While the last stylebender reeled off 7 straight victories, including a win over Yusri Belga Rui to win the Glory Middleweight Contender Tournament.
You know, I humbled him a little bit. I took his L, his win, but it's all good.
Ultimately, however, Izzy failed to win the Glory title, falling to Jason Wilness with a very close unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision. You can say what you want. I got the belt, baby.
For Adesanya, this was another disappointing decision loss that he felt he had won, and the thoughts of that defeat lingered in his next fight, just 6 weeks later, against Pereira again on March 2017 in Pereira's hometown of Sao Paulo. This time, Izzy dominated the first 2 rounds. He came out stronger from the start, landed a few powerful straight punches, and had his opponent on the ropes in the second round. However, Pereira somehow survived, and in the third round even made a remarkable comeback, landing a big uppercut that put Adesanya to sleep. That was the first time ever that Adesanya had been knocked out in his career. It was also his last kickboxing fight, as he would join the UFC in 2018.
Alex Pereira!
Alex would go on to win the Glory Middleweight title in 2017, defeating Simon Marcus at Glory 46.
Simon backed against the ropes, but then throws a body kick. And down goes Marcus. That is a knockdown. The champ is down. That punching power on display. Here he goes.
Well, Simon in the past, when he's been knocked down, he gets extra aggressive. Maybe he's learned to control himself. He's going to regain.
The fight was a classic style versus style match.
And even if it's a draw, the title stays with the champion.
Marcus, the defending champion, is considered to be one of the hardest kickers in the sport.
Simon's backing themselves into the corner. Pereira's trying to use his body.
While Poatan, by contrast, is a noted power puncher. Pereira's height and body structure make him even more dangerous. He has very long arms, and is also tall enough to make a lean back work well for him defensively. This makes him very hard work for a shorter opponent to face.
Simon Marcus in real trouble here.
Pereira knows this is it. He's going to lay it out. He doesn't have to hold back anymore.
It turned out to be a brutal and intense match. They had both fighters looking tired, fatigued, and out of ideas by the final round.
10 seconds.
And a right hand from Simon.
When the bell sounded, the decision was a foregone conclusion. Marcus mounted the corner to claim victory, but the win was clearly Pereira's.
You know, Pereira had it in the bag.
And new Glory Middleweight Champion of the world, Alex Pereira!
The judges confirmed it. All 5 saw Pereira as the winner and made him the new Glory Middleweight World Champion. This would officially mark the start of Pereira's kickboxing reign of dominance. He would defend his belt 5 times, before also winning the Glory Interim Light Heavyweight title in 2019.
Foi uma luta muito dura.
The fight was very important for me. I wanted to leave my mark. I trained hard for this fight.
He then followed it up by winning the title in January 2021, beating former champion Artem Bakhatov, becoming the first fighter in Glory history to simultaneously hold 2 belts at the same time.
You are the champion in 2 divisions. You've beaten everybody. What's next for you?
Finally, after a total of 40 kickboxing fights, 33 wins and 7 losses, Pereira changed lane and signed with the UFC in November 2021. Being one of the most decorated kickboxers to ever compete in UFC, there was a lot of anticipation for his debut fight against Greek fighter Andreas "the Spartan" Michailidis. The Spartan, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt, knew exactly what he had to do to get the win, and executed an almost perfect game plan in the first round. He wasted no time closing the distance and going for a takedown within the first minute of the fight. Pereira was on defensive mode for pretty much the entire round. The Spartan was stuck on his back, putting all of his weight down on the Brazilian to get him tired. However, the effort trying to maintain control on Pereira took a toll on the Spartan, who was visibly exhausted after the first round. Pereira then exploded almost out of the gate in the second round. Just seconds in, he leaped in the air and caught his opponent with a flying knee that sent him straight to the canvas. The referee didn't immediately get involved, forcing Pereira to drop a couple of hammer fists, but it was already over.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Thank you very much, everybody that supported me. I also thank my opponent for making this fight with me.
In March 2022, Poatan would face fellow Brazilian knockout artist Bruno Silva.
For Bruno, probably he will be one of the best fights of the year. He believes in a big fight with the bonus, with the performance. I don't know, but he believes in a big fight.
Bruno Silva's in the white, riding a 7-fight win streak into this matchup.
This time, it seemed as if Pereira was still trying to adjust to MMA. His rhythm throughout the fight was a bit awkward, looking at times like he was overthinking his moves. For context, the rhythm that kickboxing matches often tend to have is very different from MMA. Kickboxers are very measured and patient, sometimes seemingly taking turns and trading offense. This resulted in Pereira letting Silva off the hook a bunch of times during this fight. He looked solid in the clinch, stopped a couple of takedowns, got up quickly when he did get taken down, and paced himself well against someone who basically just refused to be knocked out.
There's that flying knee, almost got him.
Silva held his own pretty well in the stand-up and kept firing punches in survival mode the whole time. Somewhat surprisingly, he didn't actually drop to a knee until after the final horn sounded. By the end of the fight, all three judges gave the decision to Pereira, who would go ahead to face Sean Strickland only 2 months later.
Big scary Brazilian, man. We could all say it. The guy's massive. Here's the thing, man. Here's the fucking thing. Let me tell you guys something. There's not one glory fucking kickboxer in any fucking weight class that I couldn't stand and bang with. So don't fucking tell me just because you're some big fucking Brazilian, you knocked out Izzy 20 years ago, that fucking I can't stand with you.
Truthfully, there isn't a ton of diversity within Pereira's game, but there doesn't need to be, because all of the pieces inform a boxing skill set that is fundamentally sound. Strickland stuck to his standard style, standing tall and stiff, and trying to walk forward.
Look at Sean Strickland pushing the pace, moving forward.
That was ill-advised against a striker the quality of Poatan.
Look, there was one thing tonight that Sean Strickland had to do. Take down.
The Brazilian simply waited patiently while working kicks to the body. As the kicks to Strickland's calf appeared to be taking a toll, Pereira engaged his hands, landing a big left hook that sent his opponent to the canvas. As Strickland tried to get up, he ate another right hand and crashed a second time, this time needing the referee to step in and end the fight.
The part about it was, during the round I kept thinking, man, this is going to be an easy fight. I see everything this guy's throwing. I'm getting the better of the exchanges. I'm going to beat this guy up for 3 rounds. And then halfway through I got caught. So hats off to Alex. He's a killer.
And this finally takes us to the main reason why you clicked on this video. UFC 281, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. The last truly mega UFC card of 2022.
You get a chance to fight for the middleweight title. Give us your thoughts.
Significa muito pra mim. It's a great opportunity for me. I want to be here. I want to be a champion, and all I want to do is fight now.
By now, Adesanya was one of the UFC's biggest stars, and there were plenty of reasons to believe he could be victorious against Pereira, who was considerably less tested in the Octagon, a realm where the last stylebender had dominated and was undefeated as a middleweight.
You get another shot at Alex Pereira. Obviously, a lot of history here between the two of you.
It's time to rewrite history.
For weeks before the fight, Adesanya patiently answered questions about his 2 previous losses to Pereira, and even more specifically about the knockout. He said it wasn't in his head, and he'd successfully dealt with it. Now, all that was left for him was to prove it in the Octagon.
This is about me and my legacy. This is about, I guess, me rewriting a new path of history.
15 minutes of fame. Won't let a damn thing get in the
The opening frame was, perhaps, the most high-level kickboxing round in UFC history,
Good kick to the body there by Pereira.
which was to be expected given the fighter's history. Pereira kept Adesanya on the outside of the cage, near the fence, but both found success. However, Izzy put a stamp on the round by stinging his rival in the closing seconds.
If he didn't have the history with you, he wouldn't be fighting for a belt.
Without
on
me,
Saturday.
he wouldn't be here. Without me, he would have been exposed a long time ago.
Round 2 saw both men score off their jabs. Interestingly, Adesanya tried for 2 takedowns, but couldn't land either one. And in the final seconds, Pereira sealed the round for himself by grabbing his own takedown. Not the kind of technique you'd see in the Olympics, but it counted.
Pulls you back to the side that he's got trapped.
In the third, Izzy conquered the back of Pereira, who was forced to defend from his knees. This round, the last stylebender collected 3 minutes and 50 seconds of control time. Round 4 saw Adesanya seemingly cruise towards a decision victory. All 3 judges had him ahead 39-37. However, about halfway through the 5th round, Pereira connected on a stinging jab and followed it with a brisk right hand.
Fucking crazy, isn't it? Like, similar to the last time, same story. It's crazy.
An uppercut followed, and Izzy began to retreat. Alex gave chase, and the barrage continued.
Stung him. That's the left hook.
The left
That
hook
one.
again.
And then another one.
Although Israel kept on his feet, it was clear he was in pain. And shortly after, the referee stepped in to call the end of the match.
Alex Pereira got the job done, got the knockout, got the finish in round 5 in a fight that if it went a few more minutes, Izzy was gonna pick up a decision.
Adesanya immediately protested the stoppage and said he would have wanted more time to defend himself. However, more time would have only prolonged the inevitable. Pereira had now defeated him 3 times, twice in kickboxing and now in MMA. To become the man to end Izzy middleweight title reign.
It is what it is, but I'm still here.
Leaving.
You're here, you're not leaving, Ed.
Are we witnessing the beginning of Pereira's reign of dominance in the UFC's middleweight division?
Do you see Alex as a champion for a long time, like holding the belt for a while?
No, I don't.
If Izzy gets a little more aggressive and finds the balance, he can still win a rematch against this guy.
Whatever you think, you can't deny this is one of the most exciting fighters to have joined the UFC in recent years. Only a few years ago, he was an alcoholic who had lost direction in life. Today, he stands as living proof that, if you're willing to put in the work, there's no demon you can't defeat.